Today we're going to dive into a stretching routine that's going to be really good for you to just get loose and ready to work out if you're doing a lower body session or if you're going to be doing really any type of cardio. So we're going to walk through about 6 or 7 different stretches and I'm going to explain what you should be trying to do and how to do them. Let's dive in. All right, for the majority of these stretches, we're going to be looking to do just about the same thing for each one. So these are going to be static stretches, and I want you to hold them for right around 10-second holds. So just count 10 seconds to yourself as you do each one, and I'll explain each of these different stretches for you right now. All right, the first stretch is going to be just your standard standing toe touch. And I'm going to talk about this because it's called a toe touch, and it's used to stretch out your hamstrings, but not everybody can touch their toes, or people can touch their toes but do it in a way that doesn't stretch your hamstrings. So I'm going to stand up and show you. What we're talking about for this is simply standing with your shoulders, your feet under your shoulders, and bending down and touching your toes. But like I said, not everybody can actually touch their toes, and that's okay. The purpose of this stretch is to stretch out your hamstrings. It's not to prove that you can touch your toes. And some people can touch their toes but feel nothing in their hamstrings. So what I want you to do is stand up straight, hinge back with your hips, and think about pushing your butt as far to the back wall as you possibly can. Just doing that, pushing your hips and your butt back, will bring your upper body down. And right here, I feel a ton of stretch in my hamstrings. If I put my hands down, I'm touching my knees. So basically, we just want to get to a point where you're feeling a stretch in your hamstrings. And once you get there, you can let your arms dangle. You can put them on your hips, or I'm sorry, you can put them on your knees. Or if you can get lower, you can touch your shin. You can come down to your ankle, the top of your foot, or your actual toes. Whatever helps you get a really good stretch in your hamstrings, that's what we're looking to do. And like I said, once you get into that stretch position, hold that for a solid 10 seconds. The next stretch we're going to work on is a standing quad stretch, and you'll need something to hold on to. I have my squat rack here. You could just have your hand up against a wall or something like that. So once you're in a stable position and you have the top of your foot, think about starting this stretch by actually pushing your hip towards the wall in front of you, okay? You're gonna push your hip forward, and without even pulling with your hand back here, you should feel a stretch on your quad just from pushing that hip forward. So just by straightening out your hips. And then if you want a little bit more of a stretch, you can pull with your hand back here. But all we're looking to do is get a nice slight stretch in the quad. We're not trying to tear anything, cause any muscle damage. So 10-second holds for each quad, and that should be enough. The last one from a standing position is to stretch out the calves. So again, I'm using my squat rack. You could just have your foot up against a wall, but what we're gonna look to do is from a flat position, elevate your toes, okay? And you're gonna wanna put those toes up against a fixed surface. Once you get in that position, you're gonna simply use your back foot to just lean forward until you start to feel a stretch on your calf. And once again, we're gonna hold that for a 10-second hold. Just a nice stretch on the muscle so that you can feel it, but nothing crazy, nothing overly stretching that calf. We just wanna loosen it up a little bit. All right, now we're gonna get on the ground and we're going to start by stretching out the hip glute area. And this is something, a lot of people call it a can opener, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna have one leg straight out in front of you. You're gonna bring your other foot up and over so that it's on the ground on the outside of that straight leg. And then from there, you're gonna have to put your one hand behind you to stay stable. And then you're gonna take your elbow and just kind of push it against this knee that's up over top of your straightened leg. And what you should feel is a nice stretch in the glute outer hip area. And when you're done on that side, You're gonna do the same thing over here. Again, stretching out on the outer hip glute area. That's gonna be a good one to start to open up the hips. From this same seated position, we can do additional work on our hamstrings. So this is just a seated hamstring stretch. And once again, what we're gonna be doing is trying to isolate the stretch on that hamstring. So what you can do is put one leg out in front of you. Bring your other leg in here. So you're gonna have your foot flat against your straightened leg. And you're going to reach for your toes, okay? But similar to the standing toe touch, not everybody can reach their toes. And that really doesn't matter because all we're trying to do here is get a stretch on the hamstring. So if you start from a straight up position with your torso and simply lean forward, that's gonna get a little bit of a stretch on that hamstring. If you lean forward and then think about flexing your quad, that's gonna create even more of a stretch on your hamstring. And we're doing that without even putting our arm up. So that would be my suggestion, is to start with your legs straight, just lean forward into it and flex your quad a little bit to feel the stretch. And then once you get that stretch, reach out with your arm and you could touch wherever works for you. It doesn't have to be your toe. It could be the middle of your shin. Again, it could be your ankle, the top of your foot, or your toe, whatever works. We're just trying to get a stretch on that hamstring. Obviously, you'll do the same thing on this leg as well. Okay, for our final two stretches, we're gonna focus on the groin and hip area to round this out. And at that point, you should be pretty loose and ready to go. So from a seated position, I want you to bring both of your feet together in front of you and pull them in until you start to feel a stretch on your inner thighs, okay, that groin area. From there, grab your feet with both your hands and think about using your elbows to push your legs down and out. And what that's gonna do is accentuate the stretch on the groin area. And like I've said before, we're only trying to get a light stretch. We're not trying to do anything crazy, so you don't need to touch your knees to the floor or anything like that. Just get a nice stretch, another 10-second hold here, and you should be good to go. I've got one more for you, and this is a little more advanced, so if you can't do this one, that's okay. Maybe you can work your way up to it over time, but we're gonna be doing a crouched groin stretch, and you're going to get in almost like a squatting position with your hands in front of you. You want your feet underneath your shoulders on both sides. And this is similar to what we just did sitting down, where you're gonna take your elbows, put them on the insides of your knees, and really try and push those knees out. You're gonna feel it in your groin again. And push those knees out to the point where you start to feel a little bit of a stretch, and you can hold it there. And this is one where you can actually add a little bit of movement if you'd like to. You can rock from side to side. It may bring your heel a little bit off the ground, and that's okay. And that'll give you a little bit extra of a stretch on one side and then the other. But this is one you can just hold for 10 seconds, or you can slowly rock back and forth for 10 seconds. All right, I hope you found this routine helpful. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask, but this should do a pretty good job of loosening up the muscles a bit and getting you warm and ready to train.